Are we, Jason? Are we running? Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting for the City of Hendersonville. It's February 22nd, 2022. I'm Mayor Jamie Clary, and we're going to begin as we typically do, and that's with a prayer and a pledge. And I have asked Alderman Dr. Eddie Robertson to provide the prayer tonight. Please stay standing, and then we'll have the pledge. Alderman Robertson.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight, and we seek your wisdom. Dear Lord, we pray that the decisions that we make tonight will be in the best interest of our city, and that our city is blessed, and that we will prosper. We pray for the people of our city, dear Lord, those that need prayer. We pray that you'll touch their body, whatever the need is. Amen. Dear Lord, we thank you and praise you that this COVID virus is decreasing. Yeah. We give you the credit for that, dear Lord. Thank you for touching our land and hearing the prayers of your children. Amen. Dear Lord, how great thou art, and we just lift you up and magnify your name. We pray, dear Lord, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin in me. Touch our country, touch our leaders, touch our first responders, touch the employees of this city, and touch us, dear Lord, that we will be vessels of your word. And dear Lord, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of our heart be acceptable in thy sight. O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen.
Amen. Yeah. Alderman Robertson, thank you. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. I'm going to ask Annette to call the roll. We have a couple people missing, and I will turn on all microphones so we can do that. Hold on one second here, Annette. There we go. I think we're good.
Crown.
Here.
Collins.
Here.
Cunningham.
Here.
Dixon.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
Hayes.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Petrelli. Phillips.
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Skidmore. Waters.
Here.
Clary.
Here. So we have 11 people present. Thank you all. And next we have presentations. I'm sorry, acceptance of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as provided to you in your packet. Alderman Peterson.
Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Peterson. I need a second, please. I'll second. A second from Alderman Hayes. Any discussion? Alderman Cunningham.
Do we have to add the resolution to this, Mayor? The one that we discussed at Finance?
Which resolution?
For the IDB and the
No, it's already on there.
TIF?
It is
Okay.
item 5.
Okay, do we have to formally add it, or
We
is
don't,
it the
because
2-week rule?
That actually went to, which committee 2 weeks ago? Help me out. Went to General Committee 2
Okay,
weeks ago.
good, perfect.
So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay, appreciate that question. All those in favor of approving the agenda as provided to you in your packet, please signify by saying aye when Annette calls. We need to press the buttons, don't we? Jason, you ready? There we go. Press the green if you're voting aye. Press the red if you're voting no. We're missing somebody. Alderman Waters, we're missing you. Thank you for that drama. Here we go. Jason, do we have to do it again? Do we have to do it again? No. There we go. 11 to 0. The agenda passes. We have no presentations. We do have a public hearing. This is a public hearing for Ordinance 2021-01 and Resolution 2022-02 to hear comments on a request by tnhomesites.com to annex 6.10 acres into the city limits, to rezone the property to suburban residential low-density plan development, that's SR-1 PD, and to approve a comprehensive development plan for the property based on the Forest Park final development plan. We have nobody who has asked to speak in that, so we are finished with that public hearing. Next, we have minutes. I'm going to entertain a motion that we approve the minutes from February 8th as provided to you in your packet. Alderman Waters makes that motion. Second. We have a second from Alderman Cunningham. Any discussion? I'm sorry, Alderman Robertson, can you say that again for us?
In the minutes, voting on the minutes, I will have to abstain. I was out.
Thank you. Hold on one second. Okay. Okay, appreciate it. We're back. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, and so we are back, and we are at the point that we can discuss approval of the February 8th, 2022 meeting minutes. We have a proper motion, a second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor of approving the minutes from February 8th, 2022 as provided you in the packet, please press the green light. Those opposed, please press the red one. So we have 2 abstentions. That passes 9-0. The 2 abstentions are Alderman Edwards and Alderman Robertson. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, we do. Okay. So next on our agenda is our citizen comments, and here are the rules for those. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address. Public comment shall be limited to 5 minutes per person, which time is not transferable to other speakers. All comments are to be directed to the presiding officer, not to the alderman, city staff, or other members of the public. Comments must address issues, not individuals or personalities. Personal attacks shall not be tolerated. Comments may support or oppose particular issues or measures, but the motives of those with differing views shall not be questioned or attacked. Malicious comments will not be allowed. Speeches for or against particular candidates running for public office shall not be allowed. Jeff Sassy, Villa Way. I think you're good, Jeff.
Good evening. This was more, I'm speaking in regards to 2022-08, which is the ordinance about the goat farm project. And this is more just a point of clarification that I was hoping you could speak to today about us foregoing the tax payments for that property so we could so to pay back a loan that the developer is getting, is my understanding from this. So I guess I'm just confused by that the city for the next 20 to 30 years will be paying back a loan on behalf of the developer in the tune of no more, it says no more than $40 million, and in lieu of tax payments on that property, which I just don't understand, because there's just not enough information here. It doesn't tell you what the tax interest is going to be, the interest rate on that loan, I mean, is going to be, who the loan would be coming from, whether there's a conflict of interest there. So that's all I had. Just want to get points of clarification on that. Hopefully you can speak to that tonight.
Okay, appreciate that, Jeff. When that comes up, we'll do our best to answer those questions. Next, we have Eric Osal, Indian Lake Road.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the email I sent to you this morning. I hope all of you got it, but it was regarding the cell tower, and just in a nutshell to get everyone listening up to speed, we have an alternate site for the cell tower at the swim club at 500 Indian Lake Road as opposed to 511 Indian Lake Road. The president of the swim club is on board. They're ready to enter negotiations with the Crown Castle. I believe that contract with Crown Castle could be reached fairly quickly. And this is a viable option for the city that could benefit everyone if the right people get behind it. I realize at first glance it seems unlikely that Crown Castle will go through the process again to zoning, planning, getting the site construction ready, all the costs incurred this far to make this happen at 511. It seems unlikely, but if we sweeten the deal enough for Crown Castle, if we offer to pay for any differential construction costs, offer to pay for any cost incurred, and we get together with the school, in a perfect world, I think that they will agree to extend their contract, because that's the biggest thing that Crown Castle is worried about, I think, is the time frame. I think we can appeal to everyone's good motives and say we have this site that works, that's better for everyone. We can make this happen if the right people get behind it. It's doable. It seems far-fetched, but it's doable. And in the long term, it'll be better for Crown Castle. We don't know what regulations come in the future. We don't know if it'll be federally regulated, that have setbacks, that they'll have to move it. This site across the street at Indian Lake Swim Club is 300 feet from the nearest residence, 500 feet from the fire hall, and it's actually farther from the swim club than it would be if it's at the fire station at 511 Indian Lake Road. So if we can get behind this, I plan on putting the person of contact in touch with Jesse, and hopefully we can present this. But I want you to know that it's worth the cost incurred. Let's sweeten the deal. Let's make this happen. It's beneficial for everyone. This will be an issue that John Bradley will have to take up, an issue that Mayor Clary will have to get behind. I know we're asking a lot. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's worth trying an alternate site at the very least. I'm hoping we could get a public hearing at the next Board of BOMA meeting, and we can discuss this further. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Eric, thank you. Next, we have our consent agenda. There are two items, second and final reading of ordinance 2022-04 and resolution 2022-09. The first one is an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title II, Chapter 3, regarding the Americans with Disability Board and Grievance Committee. The second is a resolution supporting the restoration of the historical state shared sales tax relationship and the increased single article cap revenue sharing relationship between the state of Tennessee and local government. I'll entertain a motion that we approve the consent agenda. We have a motion from Alderman Collins and a second from Alderman Hayes to approve the two items on the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by hitting your green button. Those opposed, please hit the red one. Those two items have been approved unanimously. Thank you all. Next, we have ordinance and resolutions, which is the first there is reading of resolution 2022-02. This is a resolution to annex certain territory upon written consent of the owners and to incorporate that property located on the east side of Jenkins Court, north of Saundersville Road in Hendersonville, Sumner County, Tennessee, based on the approved Forest Park Final Development Plan. Alderman Peterson.
So moved.
I have a motion from Alderman Peterson. And a second from Alderman Hayes. Alderman Peterson, any discussion?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor of resolution 2022-2, please signify by hitting the green button. Those opposed, please hit the red one. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we have second and final reading of ordinance 2022-01. This is an ordinance rezoning 6.1 acres of property located on the east side of Jenkins Court, north of Saundersville Road. This is the exact same piece of property we're just talking about. However, this is the rezoning. Earlier, we were dealing with the annexation. Alderman Peterson.
So moved.
We have a motion from Alderman Peterson, a second from Alderman Waters. Any discussion? Alderman Peterson, anything? Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by hitting the green button. Those opposed, hit the red one. And this is ordinance 2022-01. That passes with majority vote. I'm the only person who voted against it. Everybody else voted in favor. Now we have item 5. This is resolution 2021-08. This is a resolution of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the City of Hendersonville, Tennessee, to approve an economic impact plan for the Chute Lane development area. I so move.
Second.
We have a second from Alderman Collins, I believe that was. Any discussion? Alderman Robertson.
And Mayor, you may be able to answer this, but is it the only city road that's affected by this development is Chutes Lane? Or will there be other city roads that are affected?
I can't answer that,
Okay.
but I'm looking at some folks that might be able to, and Kevin, please identify yourself. Oh, I'm sorry. Without objection, we're going to suspend the rules to hear from a representative for this project.
Kevin Kane, Strass Development. I guess it depends on how you interpret impact. Vaughn Road would be the other one with the connection, which could be considered an impact. But Chute Lane is probably the primary impact, yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. I support this project. I think it's good for the county, it's good for Gallatin, and more important, it's good for Hendersonville. Mayor, my issue is that with this development growing, are we going to be required to make any improvements in the infrastructure, or is that part of the TIF plan that those improvements would be made? I just don't want, as this grows and as traffic increases, I don't want 5 years from now that we have to come back and, well, we need to spend $1 million on improving, the roads to serve that area. So I just want on record some assurance that the infrastructure is going to take care of all of the expected increased demand in traffic for this area.
Want to speak to that? Yeah, so we've done extensive traffic studies and made major amendments to Chute Lane, include that will alleviate a lot of the issues that currently exist in terms of traffic in and out of the elementary school. We are adding some roundabouts to adjust for traffic there, additional turn lanes in and out of the school, and we're also donating 3 acres of land to Jack Anderson Elementary to help alleviate those issues as we move forward in time. So, yeah, we feel and we have, documented support that the plans that we've proposed would help mitigate the problems that exist currently.
Yeah, and one last question. The land that you're going to donate for a park, it's my understanding that that's going to benefit some city residents, that park. How much land is that plot of land? Do you know?
So they're not necessarily donating it, but, so go ahead.
Yeah, so the Hendersonville portion of the TIF district we're studying right now in terms of what's going to happen there. And there has been conversation of a community amenity of some sort, but that hasn't been identified yet. So the 3 acres that's being donated is actually on a separate parcel from the conversation regarding a park-like space. So they're kind of 2 different conversations. So it's 3 acres adjacent to Jack Anderson, and then the conversation around a park is on a separate parcel that's part of the TIF district, but that hasn't been declared yet, what that is.
Okay. Thank you. That's all. That's all I have.
Alderman Robertson, sort of follow up on the answers that Kevin provided. The city is not obligating itself at all to make any improvements. So if they fall short or something happens, we are not obligated unless the board decides to at a later date. Okay. Let's see. Alderman Collins.
I wanted to, hopefully I understood Mr. Sassy's, I'm probably not supposed to say his name, but his
You're fine.
questions.
You can do that.
And that we could speak to that a little bit. First of all, what sometimes I think people don't understand is that this is a tax increment. So the taxes that we collect now, I believe, were $8,000 annually. We will continue to collect those taxes. So we're not giving up any of our income. What we're giving up is the increment. So as the land is improved, the taxes would increase, and it's that differential that we would be giving up until the $40 million is repaid, and there's a time limit on that of 30 years. But with the last one that the city participated in, it was 14 years, if I'm remembering that correctly, that it took to pay it off. And, who knows? This is a completely different animal, but it should be, well, a lot earlier than that. And the Hendersonville portion of this is, I don't know how many acres it is, but it is 4 two-story office buildings. And it's in the property that's between Waterford Way and the bypass. And so it really backs up right up to the bypass, and it's pretty loud, unfortunately, right through there. And my concerns for the residents of Waterford Way, another issue altogether, but my opinion is that it'll be a while before these offices are built. That might be about the last thing that happens over there. I don't think we're giving up that much, and we're getting the improvements on Chute Lane with the roundabout into Devonshire and a roundabout into Jack Anderson, and the road will be wider, and I feel really confident actually that it'll help with the traffic flow into Jack Anderson Elementary, because occasionally I get complaints about how long it takes, and for the car rider line gets backed up and people can't leave on Devonshire and all of that kind of thing. And it's really bad, like if somebody's car breaks down in the car rider line. Oh, Lord, I'm going to hear about it. But, so I think that we're getting a good shake. We're getting Chute Lane significantly upgraded. And there's not that much in the Hendersonville portion of this that we would be giving up. Even the increment, the potential income it's worth it to me. I think we're getting a lot for our potential income that we're giving up. The other thing I just want to say in the public meeting is that I've had conversations about providing for transparency and accountability. And while that isn't part of this resolution, it is going to be part of the documents for the Industrial Development Board, which will include that the city receives quarterly transaction reports, and that the city and the city attorney has the opportunity to review contracts. And when I asked for that level of transparency and for it to be initiated by the IDB board, it was like, oh, of course we'll do that. So I really do appreciate the willingness to add that language, because it makes me feel more comfortable that we're not going to get in a situation where people don't understand what happened with the money or where it went. And when the information becomes available, we're going to be very transparent about what the developer's fees are. And I appreciate all that. And the 3 acres going to the school, I think this is a good deal for us. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Alderman Collins, thank you. Alderman Hayes.
Yes, sir. Mr. Kane, the 3 acres, you said adjacent to the school that you're donating, is that across Chutes Lane from the school? Is that,
No,
where is the 3 acres?
Yeah, it's on the same side of the road as Jack Anderson is currently. If the best way to describe it is sort of, if you're looking at the elementary school, to the left-hand side where it backs up to River Chase, there's an adjacent property there, and we're partitioning off those 3 acres. So it's attached to Jack Anderson currently.
When earlier they used the word park, or is that the same 3 acres we're talking about here? I know it's not. Okay.
A park conversation is a bit of a different conversation. It's not anything that we've necessarily
with the 3
committed
acres.
to, but it's something that we're exploring in terms of our partners on the project. Their interest is to enhance the amenities available to people in this community. And so that's part of that conversation. This 3 acres is specifically being donated to the county and the school board to do with what they deem the necessary use.
Okay.
It's not necessarily determined at this point.
And I emphasized this in the general committee meeting. I do want to emphasize it one more time tonight, as Alderman Collins did, and that is the more information and the more transparent that we can be in this TIF, the better, because sometimes they're misunderstood, and we just want to make certain that that information's there and that the public is completely aware of every single dollar. Thank you, Mr. Kane. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Alderman Hayes, thank you. Alderman Peterson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I will have to abstain. This is a conflict of interest. If this tax increment is approved, it comes from the state comptroller and the Commissioner of Economic and Community Development, who happens to be my boss. So, thank you.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor of Resolution 2022-08, please signify by hitting the green button. Those opposed, please hit the red one. That passes with one abstention, with Alderman Peterson, passes with 10 votes. Thank you all. Next, we have second and final reading of Ordinance 2022-05. This is an ordinance amending the Ordinance 2022-22. That's our budget ordinance, to reflect mid-year adjustment to the city's 2022 fiscal year budget. I so move.
Second.
We have a second from Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the sponsors of this. I support it 100%. I think it's an excellent ordinance, but I do have one, I think, a minor amendment that I would like for this board to consider. When Mr. Eckenroth was hired, there was discussions with him and the city to provide him a car allowance. I did not support that car allowance at the time, but now I do for this reason. I have come to find that Mr. Eckenroth is not a person that sits behind his desk. He is constantly out in the community. I know as they were building the inline hockey rink, which he oversaw in his capacity, that he was there multiple times representing the city, working with the contractors. So he is all over this city, and I do think now that he's been here for a while, that he has established himself. I, for one, am very pleased with the way things are going. I think that the city is progressing and that things look excellent. So all that said, I would like to proffer an amendment that we would begin next month, if this passes, of providing Mr. Eckenroth a $400 a month car allowance that he can use while he does city business. And I so move.
We have a motion. Second motion. And a second from Alderman Waters. Any discussion on this item? Alderman Brown, I've got your light lit up. Is that on this item, or you want to?
It's on the, no, it's not on.
Okay, okay. Alderman Hayes.
Thank you, Mayor. I mentioned this at the last general committee meeting, and I want to mention it again tonight. I feel like I can support this amendment. I appreciate so much. Mr. Eckenroth's been here just a little over 9 months, and since he has been here, he has done a fantastic job of helping us bring our T's and C's together, so to speak, in all of our contracts. He is out there on the ground. He is an amazing administrator, and he's also an amazing communicator, and he's doing a great job with our employees and our directors. So I just want him to know how much I appreciate him, and I think I can support this simply because of what a great job he's doing. That's all.
Alderman Hayes, thank you. Any other discussion or clarification needed? All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by hitting the green button. Those opposed, please hit the red one. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I supported the last amendment, but I was actually going to amend it to give him a dozen donuts each month.
You can still do that.
But I like what Alderman Robertson did instead. So I have a question. Jesse likes donuts. For Mr. Eckenroth and our Public Works Director on this amended budget. Under professional services, we are increasing $250,000 for professional services. So I'd kind of like to know what that explanation is in depth, not just in whole, that we need more.
Hold on one second, guys. There we go.
Well, I will give you the broad brush and then turn it over to Sarah. We currently have 3 positions, if I'm correct, in Public Works that we don't have staff filled. So essentially, we've backfilled those positions with professional services help. We have a city engineer who's coming in, I think, within a couple weeks, so that will help reduce the amount of professional services that we need. But we've had a greater sense of urgency to push some of our capital projects, which requires some more professional services, and then just generally backfilling the lack of staff we have in Public Works. But I will have Sarah elaborate further on specifics.
I guess the second half of that question would be, are we any closer on those positions?
So for the first part, so we are using a consultant for city engineer professional services. They are reviewing the bulk of our development projects through the Planning Commission. I go through and do a follow-up review just to follow up on it and make sure quality control, basically, that they're catching everything that we would want to catch. But with that position vacant, well, with several of our positions vacant, I haven't had the available time to fully address the development plan reviews. That would be usually fulfilled either through the city engineer or assistant city engineer, both vacant. Also, our traffic engineering position has been vacant for a while now, and so I've been having to utilize our on-call traffic engineer more than I would have before for a lot of our safety reviews and traffic calming reviews. And additionally, we are using professional services to pay for some of our tornado debris collection efforts, and so that line item needed to be increased to address that. As far as if we're getting closer, as Jesse said, our city engineer is tentatively starting March 7th. We're very excited about that. He has relocated here. The other positions, we were waiting to hire those once he came in, since they would be reporting to him. So we are closer. As soon as he starts, we will give him a little adjustment period, but then begin hiring those other positions.
The other point that I want to mention is to be conservative with the budget. We didn't reduce the salaries and budgets figure. So what's going to happen is you'll just see a shift in the salaries and benefits are going to come in much lower than budgeted. But to be conservative, we just left them where they were at, and we added to professional services. So at the end of the year, you'll probably see that difference net out to zero, or close thereabouts.
That's good. So by budget time, your feeling is that we will probably be in a good spot, much better than we are now.
I think the mid-year estimate is extremely conservative. Salaries and benefits probably being the biggest portion of where we just said, let's take a very conservative approach. So, yes, we should actually end the year with a higher surplus than we're projecting.
Okay. Thank you. That's it.
Alderman Brown, anything else?
No, sir.
Thank you. I need to offer an amendment. I hope that the board will indulge me a little bit here. We, in the past, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen have created the Stormwater Appeals Board. We, as part of that, determined that we were going to pay those board members $100 per month. We had a discussion about how the training they had to go through, the technical understanding they had to go through, and quite honestly, it has not been easy to find people to fill those positions. I probably talked to 12 people, got it down to 4, and one of those decided sort of later on that was not the best fit for her. We have never actually appropriated money for that. So I'm going to ask the board to appropriate $1,800 to start paying those folks this month, February. They've already gone through part of their training in February. So my amendment is that we add $1,800 to this list of items so that we can pay at $100 per month those people who's serving on that appeals board. So we have a second from Alderman Brown. Alderman Hayes, go ahead.
I appreciate so much your seeking these people and getting them signed up. You know, this was something that a year and a half, 2 years ago, I know that Alderman Petrelli and myself were both very much wanting to see this appeals board formed. So, Mayor, thank you. I support that amendment, and I really am appreciative that we can get this thing going, because there are some people out there that need the opportunity to appeal.
Alderman Hayes, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. How many people are on the appeals board?
It's just 3.
3 people? And they meet once a month?
They could actually
Or
end up meeting
as
more
needed?
often. As needed. They have to have training, and I think they have to absolutely meet once every 6 months. I'm looking at Keith. I'm looking at the wrong person.
And are they primarily looking at businesses for this?
Yes. I don't think there'd ever be a time.
Because the residential is
Yeah.
just kind of a set.
Yeah. I'm seeing different faces from Sarah.
So the Stormwater Appeals Board is mainly, their main objective is going to be to hear appeals for civil penalties, primarily from, it'll probably be commercial and through the construction process for those that are non-compliant with our ordinance. Because it's a utility, there's not really an appeal to not pay the utility fee. It's considered to be the same as an electric bill or a water bill. But so their purpose would be to hear those appeals to civil penalties.
Okay, so that would be for a penalty situation?
Yes.
What about if they don't agree with with how they're being billed, assessed? Thank you.
That, we actually had our training today. MTAS came in and did our 3-hour training today with the board, and I sat in on that. That's a staff level issue because it's very clearly designated through the ordinance based on their impervious area for the site. So there's not really an appeal because it's a very simple formula.
Okay. All right, thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you,
Sarah.
Mayor.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Any other discussion on this amendment? All those in favor of adding $1,800 to pay our Stormwater Utility Appeals Board, please signify by hitting the green button. Those opposed, please hit the red one. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we're back on the main motion. So we are on Ordinance 2022-05. We have amended it twice. Any other discussion? This is second and final reading. All those in favor of second and final reading of Ordinance 2022-05 as amended, please signify by hitting the green button. Those opposed, hit the red one. Oh. I think we have to, if you've hit it once, go ahead and hit it again just to make sure. I think we're good. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we're on Resolution 2022-10. This is a resolution amending the job classification list and pay table regarding certain positions and creating 2 new positions. Alderman Brown. We have a motion from Alderman Brown. And a second from Alderman Hayes. Alderman Dixon and Jesse, you're probably going to need your help. Alderman Dixon, go ahead.
Yes. Can someone give us an outline of the 2 new positions that we're trying to add, and what's the purpose for both of them?
Yes, so we're not asking for 2 new bodies, but we have a position that's vacant in the Parks Department. So when the vacancy happened, or before the vacancy happened, Andy went ahead and did an assessment of what that person was doing on a day-to-day basis. And what that person was actually doing was materially different from their job description. So we created a new job description to match what that person was actually doing, because that's how the department functioned best. So that, while it is a new position in terms of description and pay, we are not asking for a new body. We're adding the position because if we can't find someone that we can hire at that level, then we have the prior position we had to backfill the previous position, title, and pay. But it would be much more beneficial to have an expanded job description to do what that person was actually doing. So that's for the Parks project coordinator, and the project coordination piece wasn't on the first job description, so that's what we added. So it's not a new body, but it's much more useful if they can do project coordination, because that's a lot of what they do. So putting some bid documents together, the RFPs, keeping the spreadsheets on costs and things that come in, so very useful. The other position that is not a new body is the network communications technician or specialist. And because now so many of our meetings are remote or Zoom, AV, our telephone system is pretty robust here at City Hall. So that position is also materially different from what we hired the person who's doing that position as, which was a help desk specialist. So it's not a new body. What we intend to do is offer that position to a current employee and then keep the old position in the event that we're going to need it in the future. We still have a job description to hire a person at, but we're not asking for any more money in the budget or new employees at this point. It's just to clean up some language and to get market rates current on those jobs.
Great, thank you.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Any other discussion? Alderman Peterson. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This isn't about this resolution, but Jesse, I'd like to ask, have we had any more consideration for hiring a grant writer?
Yes, actually, the mayor and I have reached out to someone we have who we think would be an excellent fit several times to see if they would be interested. And that person has not expressed interest in coming to the city. But I think as part of the budget for next year, I kind of wanted a year to sit and see where we need some improvements as far as positions go. But I think that across the board, people that the board and staff support in addition of a grants writer. Maybe not full-time, maybe in a part-time capacity, or maybe in a consultant capacity as well. So I think if, we can continue to utilize professional services for grant writing, but absolutely we're considering a grant writer in-house.
Very good. Thank you.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I went to sleep, Jesse, while you was talking. Did you cover D? If you did, I missed it.
Which page? Alderman Waters, which page?
186. No, D on the same page.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's the parks position. That's where Mr. Gilly had someone who left his department, and he did an assessment of that job description before they left. So we did the job description to mimic what that position was actually doing. And we are not asking for a new body. We're just updating the job description to match what that employee was actually doing.
You're not hiring another person?
Correct.
Okay. I fell asleep. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Waters, thank you. All those in favor of Resolution 2022-10, please signify by hitting the green button. Those opposed, please hit the red one. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we have Resolution 2022-11. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a revised lease agreement regarding the Mont Haven property. I so move. I have a second from Alderman Cunningham. I want to explain a little bit what's going on here. Is we had a lease agreement for the use of Mont Haven with the Hendersonville Arts Council. We are changing that to be to the Mont Haven Arts and Cultural Center. But there is an additional, there's something that's going to be addition to that lease agreement. And I need to explain that to you now. If you turn to page, in your packet, page 106, you're going to see that there are 4 parts to what we anticipate, what our expectations are of the Mont Haven Arts and Cultural Center. You see there are 4 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to add a 5th. And where this comes from is from some concerns that were expressed in the General Committee a couple weeks ago. And so I got with Colton Jones, the attorney, and with Barry and John, board members, and explained a little bit more what our expectations are of the MAC in the way that they maintain and use our property, and what our responsibilities are for that property. Because it is our house, it is our property, we want to make sure that's taken care of, but obviously we still have some responsibility to it as well. And this is not out of the ordinary. It's similar to what our expectations are for the senior center, which we also own, and not too far out of line from what we expect with the management company that runs our golf course. So that's sort of where this is coming from. So let me read this to you. This is entirely new. This is item number 5 on page, this would be item number 5 on page 106. Furthermore, the MAC shall henceforth be responsible for maintaining the lawn and landscaping on the property, as well as indoor cleaning and basic operational upkeep of the building and grounds. The city shall maintain responsibility for the larger improvements and repair and replacement projects related to the building and the grounds. Put otherwise, it is contemplated and understood by the parties that the MAC will handle the day-to-day maintenance, cleaning, and other upkeep of the property, which are minor in scope, while the city will maintain responsibility for the more significant projects on the building and grounds, for which it is more capable of handling the financial burden. This provision may not be amended, this provision may be amended at a later date if when the MAC is more capable of handling those larger projects and replacements. It really doesn't change our relationship and what we expect of them. It just puts it in writing. So let's see, Alderman Collins.
Actually, I don't want to speak to this amendment.
Okay, so we'll come back to you in just a few minutes then. Go ahead and hit your button if you will. Alderman Brown on the amendment.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I thank you for putting this together because we asked for this in general committee. The only thing I would like to see, and Mr. Jones and I talked about it a minute ago, is I would like to see a dollar amount put in there to where it says something to the effect of the city shall still maintain responsibility for larger improvements and repair and replacement projects related to building and grounds for anything over $1,000. That would be putting the burden back on Monthaven for if a toilet needs fixed or a faucet's dripping or, you know, whatever up to $1,000. One of the kids going through a class breaks a window out or, you know, I think that clearly defines what your responsibilities are and what our responsibilities are in maintaining that property. So I would offer that amendment, and I see your heads doing this, so I want you to be good with it too.
So we have a motion.
I'll second
And we have a second from Alderman Hayes. So I'm going to give you all a chance to speak real quickly. Where my problem is that I sort of worry in this situation, and we have this with some other properties, is that the maintenance doesn't get done. And especially when it's something that might be $600, $800. But I'll let you all speak to that. So Colton, tell us who you are, please.
Hey, my name's Colton Jones. I'm on the board at Monthaven, and I'm also the de facto lawyer. Worked with Mr. Bradley in trying to put this together. You know, I think that Alderman Brown's suggestion is pretty much what we had contemplated in that paragraph 5. This defines it a little more clearly. You know, it might very well be an improvement on that paragraph, so that's fine with us. I was reluctant to define, you know, to start listing out exactly, you know, what Monthaven will be responsible for versus what the city will be responsible for, because inevitably something that's not listed will pop up, and it just creates another dilemma and dispute as to whose responsibility it is. So if the dollar amount clarifies things, then I think that would be fine.
So Alderman Brown, help me out here. Maybe at the end of this paragraph, we place this text, minor is defined as $1,000 or under $1,000.
If that's good with our attorney, then that'd be good with me.
Sounds all right, I suppose. I mean, I haven't looked through the best place to put it, but.
Yeah.
It's pretty wordy, yes.
Yeah.
I'd like a motion to let us reword that paragraph to do the intent of what we're talking about. We need to reword that anyway, in my opinion. I think Mr. Jones.
That's fine.
That out. Because it is wordy and it's kind of awkward.
So that's going to require that we put this off.
Not necessarily. That it'd be clarified between the city attorney and Mr. Jones, and authorize you to sign the clarified revised lease agreement.
With the understanding that minor is defined as less than $1,000.
Yes, right, correct.
Are you okay with that?
I'm good.
Okay, Alderman Hayes, you made that second. So the motion that we have is to amend this, that the city attorney, item number 5, is that the city attorney will work with the attorney for the MAC to clarify and word this better.
Just clarify.
And with the understanding that also we will define minor as less than $1,000. And
And if you all can't figure that out, then
come back
come
here.
back in 2 weeks and we'll talk about it again, but I hope I don't see you in 2 weeks. I think you can probably figure it out.
I think we're good.
Okay.
You know, let me go ahead and have the 4 minute again.
Go ahead, Alderman Brown.
You're good. Just not too many months ago, we were sitting here jihad about something else, and we see how that marriage ended up pretty well for everybody. So hopefully this one will stay that way, and I'm not too worried about anything getting done. I mean, if we're going to trust you with that building for $1 a year, I think you'll probably fix the toilet with it leaking, you know.
So
Thanks.
we first need to vote on the amendment to the amendment.
Yep.
Okay, so Alderman Collins, you don't want to speak on either, okay? Alderman Edwards, do you want to speak on either one? Yeah, I would. Okay, hold on here, just give me 1 second. There we go, go ahead.
Should we clarify to say that only improvements over 1,000? I mean, sorry, repairs over 1,000, because Monthaven may want to do some improvements to the landscaping that may be over 1,000. Should we just clarify that it would only be repairs to the property?
We'll
only
clarify
repairs?
that it's repairs, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
We're not talking about improvements to the property.
I see Alderman Hayes shaking his head yes. Alderman Brown? Okay, so you feel comfortable with that, Alderman Edwards?
Yeah, that's fine. That's
Okay.
everything I had on the amendment to the amendment.
Okay. So we need to vote on the amendment to the amendment first, unless anybody else has any discussion on that. Okay, all those in favor of the amendment to the amendment, please signify by hitting your green button. Those opposed, please hit the red one. Okay, that passes unanimously. Now we're back on the amendment, and that came from me. That was to add paragraph 5. The motion and the second for the amendment to the amendment was Alderman Brown, followed by Alderman Hayes. Okay? Okay, so now we're back on the amendment as amended, and that is to add paragraph 5. And obviously, with this amendment to it, we're going to reword that and add a couple items. Alderman Collins on this? Okay. When we get to the main motion, I'll do my best to turn back to you. So, all those in favor of the amendment, please signify by hitting the, hold on here.
I don't see
You're
that.
fine.
Hold on.
Okay, signify by hitting the green button. Those opposed to the amendment, hit the red one. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Alderman Collins on the main motion.
Okay.
Oh, hold on one second, Alderman Collins. We got to turn off everybody's light. There we go, Alderman Collins.
Okay, on that same page, 106.
Okay.
Number 3 is to the extent funds are appropriated from the city, da-da-da-da. It sounds to me like what this is saying is that Monthaven is pseudo-entitled to the money that was previously designated to the Arts Council, and would almost seem that it's one or the other. And I don't even understand why we're addressing things that happen in the nonprofit committee in a lease agreement. And I kind of have the same question with number 4, that the Arts Council shall continue to function as an agency of the city for the purpose of assisting the MAC. They may want to do other things as well, and I don't know why the Arts Council would be dictated to in a lease, the 25-year lease. They should be able to determine their own, within the city's ordinance, to kind of determine their own mission and goals.
So let's have Colton answer
Okay.
that, and if we need to, go ahead, hold on, John.
Those were
John, hold on,
changes I
hold on.
made. Oh.
There we go. Okay, go ahead.
Those were changes that I made, actually, Alderman Collins, because I wanted to be clear that we're not obligating ourselves to appropriate money. That's why it says, to the extent we do appropriate money as a part of our annual operating budget, we may pay them money. If we want to give money to the Arts Council instead, we still can do that. This is an enabling thing.
Or both.
Or both, yeah. Or always includes both. And the second thing is, we talked about whether we wanted to continue the Arts Council or not. And the idea was, I talked to great length with Mr. Pitcher about this, that there still needs to be an Arts Council, maybe focusing on local events such as, certain things with local artists perhaps. And the reason for this language is just to make sure that that continues to be operated. And also, if you look at number 1 in that same section, that I want to be clear that they have the right to use the Monthaven property also. Like the Arts Council will still be able to meet in Monthaven, even though the lease is being assigned. And that's why I've got those exceptions in there, so that there can still be an Arts Council. We can, if we decide to do away with the Arts Council or even making changes to it, that should not require any change in this lease agreement.
Okay, that answers
Does that
my
make it more
question.
sense?
And then yes, it is. Thank you so much. And then, with it being a historic building, and I know that Mayor Clary and I share an affinity for historic buildings, should we be doing an annual inspection or just something to protect the city's interest in the building?
We do right now, it's at least annual. Sarah, can you help us out on that?
It's not.
I'm not aware of an annual inspection outside of city staff, but city staff regularly visits the building and inspects the condition of the foundation, the exterior of the roof, things of that nature. But that's something we can investigate if the board desired an additional.
As the owner of the property, the city is going to still have the right to inspect on reasonable time,
Okay.
reasonable basis.
I think that's, okay, I think that's good enough for me. I talked to a realtor today, and I learned that the rent, if they were to rent this, it would be between $10,000 and $12,000 a month. So this is a really significant gift that I think we're happy to give and take care of it for us. That's all I have.
Thank you, Alderman Collins. Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe this is a 25-year lease. Is this correct?
Yes.
I've gone through the packet several times, and I don't see a dollar amount for this lease.
It's because it's being donated. There's not a dollar amount. They don't pay any rent.
Is that in the best interest of the city?
That's not my decision,
so-
Mr. Peterson. That's yours.
Yeah, so I'm the sponsor of this. I think it is, Alderman Peterson.
Because Alderman Collins just said a facility like this would cost $10,000 a month.
So I guess my best way to answer that, since I'm the sponsor, anybody else is welcome to chime in here, and possibly y'all would like to. We have some city facilities that we pay some people to take care of. And I give a great example is the Bradford Berry House is going to become ours, and we're not real sure what to do with that, what that would cost to keep it up. We obviously want somebody to take care of the building, but we want somebody to use it to the benefit of the community as well. I don't feel like the city does enough for arts, obviously just my opinion. We are a city with many people that have skills in arts that are far beyond my skills, that's for sure, but in many different arts. So that's my opinion, why I feel like we should do this. And other people may have other opinions.
I just don't want an appearance that we're giving a charity preferential treatment over other charities in town, because there's so many great organizations that do wonderful work. I just, was thinking, do we have a dollar amount of what the financial benefit is from Monhaven to the city each year to justify giving them a $1 a year lease?
That's a good question. Does anybody else want to shoot at it? No. Okay, Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. In my opinion, of what the Arts Council does and what they perform in the community, on behalf of the city of Hendersonville, is kind of invaluable. It's like an amenity that the city has to offer the citizens. Just like our Parks Department, they have all different activities and amenities that they offer the citizens. And I think the Arts Council does something very similar to that. And I agree with Mayor Clary that we don't have enough art right now. They have, when you think about arts, it's not just painting and drawing. It's also in the musical part of the arts, poetry, musicians, writers' nights, activities for the elementary and the junior high schools, and I think if we think of it as an amenity, I think that would be a good thing for our city. It's good. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Edwards, go ahead.
Yeah, and briefly, just to kind of piggyback off what Alderman Cunningham was saying, I mean, Monhaven also does a lot of veterans outreach programs. David Moomey over here is shaking his head so he can attest to that. I know a dollar figure was put on what to rent on the Monhaven property for. I don't know who you could rent it to. I mean, it's such a niche property. I don't know who you'd rent it to. I mean, that's a very limited market, so I don't know who would. And to answer your question, Alderman Peterson, I mean, the MAC Monhaven Arts and Cultural Center is basically taking care of our city property for free for us. They're maintaining it. If you go look at the Bradford Berry House, I mean, you see what happens when someone's not maintaining city property. So they're maintaining it. They're there every day. So I think we're definitely getting a tangible benefit in addition to the intangible benefits that Alderman Cunningham had mentioned. And to Alderman Collins, you had kind of you had kind of started off strong on maybe your opposition to paragraph 4, but you kind of trailed away, and I was right there with you. I know you're the liaison to the Arts Council. Would you want to see that language modified, maybe to say that the Arts Council shall continue to function as an agency of the city for any purpose it deems appropriate, including the assistance of the MAC? That may broaden the scope of what the Arts Council can do.
Hold on a second, Alderman Edwards. Alderman Peterson sort of asking some questions there, so I sort of feel like I should go back to him.
Okay.
But I think you have a very worthwhile question that we need to address. Alderman Peterson, anything else? And I'm happy to come back to you in a few minutes as well. You're good.
Yes, thank you. I certainly appreciate what Mont Haven is offering the city, and I agree with that. So Mont Haven is a city-owned property, is that correct?
Mont Haven, yes, yes.
What's the property tax on that property?
What would it be if somebody else owned it? Wow.
Yes. I was thinking, maybe at least Mont Haven could do a fundraiser to just reimburse the city for the property tax if we're only charging them $1 a year. I'm just trying to make sure that that the city's not being left out of this deal. Again, I appreciate what Mont Haven does. I just I want to make sure the taxpayers are benefiting as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. Alderman Edwards, do you want to repeat what you mentioned? I think Alderman Collins was going to address that.
Yeah, Alderman Collins, if you heard what I was saying, just if you're good with that, I would.
That sounds good to me. My understanding from Mr. Bradley is that it's probably not necessary, but I like, because this won't limit or obligate really the Arts Council in any way. But I think that your language further clarifies that. Would you agree, Mr. Bradley?
Well, I had not put that language in there about the MAC. That was the suggestion of the MAC. They wanted to have that so that anything that the Arts Council did would be with the agreement of the MAC. And what you were saying, I think what Mr. Edwards is saying, is that they should, if they wanted to do something without the agreement, that they should have the right to do that. But you've got to have some order to the way these things are done. Somebody's got to be in charge.
I don't think that the MAC should have any authority over the Arts Council.
Okay.
It's a separate entity.
And
the Arts Council would, of course, support the MAC, but not exclusively. And it would be up to the members of the Arts Council to decide.
Alderman Hayes, you look like you want to offer something.
I just wanted to.
I'm sorry. Alderman Collins, should we go to Alderman Hayes? You want to?
You can continue.
Well,
I'm on a different thread.
Oh, okay.
So Mr. Bradley, what does, when I read this, it didn't sound like what I'm saying, but you're saying that we're saying the same thing? Because sometimes this legal stuff is like, does this saying that the Arts Council will be obligated to the MAC in any way?
Just to have their consent, I think. It says, what it says is, and the further, if you want to take out for the purpose of assisting the MAC, I suppose you could take that out, because I think that's implied. The Arts Council is going to be assisting the MAC. But it says in the furtherance of the arts, as the parties deem appropriate and necessary. What the Arts Council was looking for there was that there be some consensus between the Arts Council and the MAC with respect to what activities the Arts Council does, and I suppose what activities the Mont Haven Arts and Cultural Center does. So, I mean, you can make it unilateral, but like I say, somebody's got to be in charge of, when the building's used and when it's not. So the idea was that they would be able to work together to schedule things like that. It wasn't that they could preempt them. It was just that they had to work with them.
Yeah, that's not what I meant either. Yeah. I was not thinking that the Arts Council would have, if this lease is in place, the Arts Council wouldn't have any right to the building of the MAC, that the MAC would then have a lease for. The Arts
Paragraph
Council
1 takes care of that.
would exist to promote arts in the city, not exclusively at Mont Haven. And
What it says is
I have
that the
no
Arts
idea at
Council
this
may
point if
continue.
this language is even saying what I wanted to say or not. I'm sorry.
Well, you need to see where it says, subject only to the provision that the Arts Council may continue to use the property as needed. I mean, it's, the Arts
Right.
Council still gets to use the property. That's what we're trying to clarify here.
Alderman Collins, I think
Okay.
Mr. Jones might have some help for us.
Okay.
Should we go to that?
Yes.
Okay. Colton, help us out.
Anybody who can help me at
Okay.
this point.
Okay, sure. You're finding all sorts of flaws in my handiwork, so I apologize. Yeah, what's contemplated is that, okay, if the Arts Council is going to actually assign its rights to the MAC, like, are we going to actually have those rights? Then we don't need to be playing tug of war with who gets to use the building when. So what we're trying to go there is, okay, if the Arts Council wants to use the Monthaven Mansion for something other than what the MAC has planned, let's say there's a special event or something that the Arts Council wants to do, then the Arts Council will work with the MAC and we'll just agree on a time for the Arts Council to do that. Rather, I think it comes across as looking like the MAC is somehow absorbing the Arts Council. That's not the intent. That's not what we're going for at all. It's strictly for the purposes of use of the building. And maybe that needs to be revised too, to clarify that.
I have a proposal, Mayor, that may eliminate a lot.
Okay, hold on one second.
That's
Alderman
okay.
Collins,
I'm wondering if we should defer this by 2 more weeks to get the language cleaned up, a lot of cleaning up of the language so that it's very clear what we're doing.
if we want to change, if we want to.
Is there urgency for this for anyone? I know you guys want to just be done with it, but
If we're talking about the actual lease agreement, that's something that we can decide after the resolution is passed. If you want to change the wording of the resolution, we can also do that amendment, or if you want to defer that's fine as well.
I would-
But before you make that motion, Alderman Edwards thinks he might have a solution.
okay, let's hear it.
Okay, Alderman Edwards.
I mean, what if we just completely took out paragraph 4? And that way the Arts Council can be free to do what they want, but they still have the right to be able to use the MAC property as the parties deem necessary and appropriate.
You're talking about page 106.
Page
paragraph 4.
106.
Okay. Can you explain that again, Alderman
I
Edwards?
was just saying eliminate paragraph 4, to eliminate any confusion, and then the Arts Council can be able to do whatever they want. But paragraph 1 still allows them to be able to use the MAC property as the parties deem necessary and appropriate.
Hold on one second. Anything else, Alderman Edwards?
That's all I have.
John, help us out.
I would just suggest that you leave it and just say that the Arts Council shall continue to function as an agency of the city, period. Because that's, the whole idea here is to make sure that it's clear that we're not doing away with the Arts Council by assigning the rights to Monthaven to the MAC. So I think that accomplishes what you're trying to do. Just,
I agree.
you okay with that, Ms. Collins?
Hold on one second. Alderman Edwards, you want to make that motion?
I will let Alderman Collins if she wants to, if she's fine with it,
Yes.
because I kind of.
Okay.
That sounds good.
So Alderman Collins, your
Okay.
motion is to amend this so that paragraph 4 on page 106 ends after the word city with a period. So we are
Yes.
striking for the purpose of assisting the MAC in the furtherance of the arts as the parties deem appropriate and necessary.
Yes.
So that's your motion.
I will second
And we have
that.
a second from Alderman Edwards. Would you like to get Mr. Jones' thoughts on that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's a good solution.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, so let's go to discussion on that amendment. Alderman Hayes.
I just want to say again how much I support Monthaven, and I agree with you, Mayor, and Alderman Cunningham, that we don't do enough for arts. And this is one of the classiest things in Hendersonville, and I'm grateful also for the desire to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money, Alderman Peterson. So with that in mind, our nonprofit committee, we can try to put some type of ROI on what Monthaven does and what happens there for our city. But regardless of what that ROI is, this is something that I think most of us strongly support. Thank you.
Alderman Hayes, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Monthaven provides to this city such an intrinsic value, and that's really what we're talking about. Monthaven has a lot of educational programs for children, and they also have educational programs for students that are taught at home. And so I think that I understand looking out after the taxpayers' money, and getting the value. I really understand that. But I think the intrinsic value and the location of this, I referred to this a few weeks ago as part of a trifecta for that part of the city. The new development, the residential development, the high-end, and along with Mont Haven, and the Hyundai improvements. So I think a lot's going on that end of the town. So while I understand the argument, I do support keeping because if we do charge them, then that just takes away from their ability to maybe provide other programs in the city. So because of that, with all due respect, Alderman Peterson, I'm going to support the ordinance as amended. Thank you.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment? So looking on page 106, the amendment is that on paragraph 4, it will end after city with a period. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by hitting the green button. Those opposed, please hit the red one. That passed unanimously. Thank you. Now we're back on the main motion. Obviously, we've amended it.
Can you state the amendments again?
Sure. If you give me a little while. Let's see.
Check the score in the ballgame.
So if you look on page 106, we have added a paragraph 5, and that explains what is expected of the MAC and what is expected of the city, as well as defining that a minor repair would be less than $1,000. Part of that amendment was that we are going to clean up that language in the next few days within the lease. We obviously can't change the language in the resolution once it's passed, but the resolution allows me to sign a lease. The only other amendment, so that was sort of, that amendment came in two parts. The only other amendment is that paragraph 4, we strike the wording for the purpose of assisting the MAC and the furtherance of the arts and the parties that the parties deem appropriate and necessary. Did I do a good job or a poor job of explaining that? Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. All those in favor of approving Resolution 2022-11, please signify by hitting your green button. Those opposed, please hit the red one. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we have other agenda items. First is reports, our brief committee reports. Our chairman for the Finance Committee, Chairman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. We met tonight. All committee members were there. Under Ordinance and Resolutions, we had Resolution 2022-08, a resolution for the city of Hendersonville, Tennessee, approving an economic impact plan for the Chute Lane development area. That was recommended unanimously. Resolution 2022-09, a resolution supporting the restoration of the historical state shared sales tax relationship and the increased single article cap revenue sharing relationship between the state of Tennessee and local governments was recommended unanimously. Under other agenda items, we had our sales tax report. Month over month, our sales tax has increased month over month from last year to this year by $116,000. Our overall sales tax this month came in at almost $2 million. It was $1.905 million, which is a record for the city. And clearly, it's a cumulative change year over year of $1.3 million. So that was a big, huge win for our sales tax. Our hotel motel tax, our collections are drawing more to pre-COVID numbers. So that was a good report. Stormwater collections were down. The actual expenses were down a bit because we're redirecting our city resources to the tornado cleanup efforts, but we're expecting to spend a lot more between now and the end of our fiscal year, June 30th, for that. Jesse was kind enough to give us a recap of our ARP lost revenue reimbursement, and that was given tonight as well. Our inline hockey project, 92 to 94% of it is completed, and we have local leagues playing already, so we're really rocking and rolling in that area of town. And there's a possible letter that we were sending a letter of intent for a diabetes grant, which would amount to about $450,000 over a 3-year period, and possible projects for that would be pickleball courts, greenway, and fitness equipment for our parks. And that is the end of my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Chairman Cunningham, thank you. I'm going to turn to Vice Chairman of the Public Works Committee, Eddie Robertson. Chairman Mark Skidmore had to go home. He was feeling very, very ill. And so, Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor, and everyone, please remember Mark. He wasn't feeling well, and so remember him in your prayers. All of us serve on committees that we love. Our committees do a great job. I really love serving on Public Works Committee because it's such a diverse set of issues that come before us. Briefly, we had a discussion on a litter program tonight. This was prompted, by at the last meeting, we had a very eloquent speaker that puts us all to shame about trying to get us to do more with the litter program. So we had some discussions on that, and Alderman Brown, we talked about that a litter program would be a good fit for this new beautiful Hendersonville program that General Committee has just revived. So that's moving forward. Also, March the 26th, the county, Sumner County, is having a litter pickup day. And those that are interested in participating in this, it's being organized at the county level, Department of Health. So those that are interested could contact the Department of Health with the county or contact the city staff would be able to assist that. We had a discussion tonight on a franchise request from Cumberland Electric. This franchise would provide broadband cable services to unserved areas in Hendersonville. This was as a result of a legislative act, I think it was last year, maybe the year before, that allowed co-ops the ability to provide cable TV service. And this is done to try to eliminate the have-nots in the broadband area. So we're very excited about that. It has the potential of providing some competitive alternatives to some providers in the Cumberland Electric franchise area. That will be on the agenda next meeting. We also had a discussion with Crown Castle. Based upon our meetings with the fire department employees, there were basically, we thought, 3 things that needed to be amended in the contract. And Crown Castle has agreed. Mr. Eckenroth was the one that negotiated with Crown Castle. Now, the contract has been executed. The board gave the mayor the authority to execute it, and the mayor has executed it, and we're moving forward with it. But these 3 amendments that the company agreed to are as follows. First, it was discovered that vulture buzzards, I think what they're called, like to roost on these antennas. And the school there, Indian Lake Elementary, has had a lot of trouble with bird droppings. So the company has agreed to put up some bird mitigation electronics on the tower to drive away these vultures. And I think they're going to go to your home, Mayor. I think that's where they're going to head. So that's one good amendment. The other amendment, if the birds do cause litter on the fire area, the fire department area, Crown Castle has agreed to clean them up, come periodically and clean up the bird droppings if that happens. And then last but not least, we want to make sure that the RF, the radio frequency signals that go from this cell tower that are regulated by the Federal Communication Commission and are found to be safe by the FDA stay within the parameters. So Crown Castle has agreed to do periodic tests for sure the first year and maybe for several years thereafter to get a baseline to make sure those RF signals stay within the safe range. Our staff and this board is doing everything that we can to assure our employees that this facility will be safe. And then last, light synchronization. That is a topic that we address every time we meet. It's been going on for 20 years. You know how it's been. I referred to it today as a Chinese water torture, drip by drip. It's taken 20 years, and we still don't have a definitive answer. The mayor has been talking with our legislative delegation, and the legislative delegation has agreed to try to influence TDOT to move a little quicker on that. And as I told the committee tonight, that if we can't get an answer soon, I may be willing to make a motion and to see if Chairman Cunningham will go along with me for the city just to pay that first portion of that to get that moving, because we got to do something about traffic. So the light synchronization, we still do not have an answer from the state, but the mayor is working with our legislative delegation to try to get some action there. And with that, Mayor, that's all I have.
Vice Chairman Robertson, excellent job. Thank you for stepping in at the last second. We appreciate that. Good job. Our next report is from our CEO, Jesse Eckenroth.
I'll try to keep you awake, Mr. Waters. Do my best. So I want to give a big shout out to Robert Manning and to Fire Chief Scotty Bush. They both recently completed their CPM, so they're certified professional managers. A lot of work to do that. Robert did a quite in-depth analysis of taking a procurement officer in-house and centralizing that. So if any of you want to read a 25-page document on in-house procurement, I have one that you can take home with you if you'd like. So thank you, Robert, for doing that. Appreciate that. And Chief Bush as well. Thank you for your hard work on that. I just wanted to give you a reminder, 2 workshops we have coming up this Thursday. We have a 5 o'clock workshop for trash. So this is something that the mayor put together, and it's going to be a multi-part workshop. Workshop number 1, we're really going to focus on what the existing contract with Waste Pro outlines. We're going to talk about just how they operate day to day and how that's driven by the contract, and kind of frame the context in which they operate. We're also going to talk about some expectations we have and open it up for comments for the public to talk about things they like about Waste Pro and things that they would like to be improved, so that at workshop number 2 we can come back with some ideas for improving service on Waste Pro, and then probably do an additional workshop after that that's tied into a budget meeting. And then at 6:30 we're going to have a Ward 5 town hall. So if you're in Ward 5, feel free to swing on by. We'll have it in this room, and we'll discuss several items for Ward 5. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Jesse, thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thank you. I have a question. What kind of donuts do you like? It took too long to answer, so I asked my real question. Where are we at on fire hall? Have we got paperwork back yet? I know, I think it was mid-March, something like that, we were supposed to go out for bids. I can't remember.
So I think we're about 2.5 weeks behind the schedule that Wold HFR had put out for going out to bid. They had gotten some additional comments back, and so they were working through revising the plans to make sure that a completely clean set of plans went out. I believe it was scheduled, I don't have the exact date, but it was scheduled earlier this month to go out for bid, and we still they haven't completed the final items on the plans, but at this point I think we're probably looking the end of April or early May for a notice to proceed date based on the schedule that they had given us. So they're just working through some items that were found on the plans that they're going to correct, rather than going out to bid and then having to amend the plans later.
Okay. When you say they?
Wold HFR, the architect who is drafting the plans.
So we're going to be a month behind probably on getting the bid sheets out?
Probably.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Jesse, thank you. do that. My report is in your packet. Alderman Waters, would you like to make I'm sorry, Alderman Peterson? Would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
Yes, so moved.
Okay. We have a second from Alderman Cunningham. All those in favor, please signify by hitting your green button. Those opposed, please hit the red one. That passes unanimously. We're adjourned. Thank you all. Y'all have a good night. Leave your binders here, please. Thank you, Jason.
I've got a question for Jesse.
Jason, are we off?